There was a homie I knew named Bandit who lived in Aliso Village housing projects. He was from a gang. He was a bandit. He principally ran up to cars to sell crack cocaine. I'd be on my beach cruiser in the middle of the night in the projects and talking to homies. I'd see him over there in the parking lot making his sale and counting his money as he walked towards where we were gathered. I wish I could say he was embarrassed, but he mainly wasn't. I would hand him my card and I'd say, "Hey, give me a holler." And he politely took it, but never called. Until one day he walked into my office and I couldn't believe my eyes. And he said what gang members often say, "I'm tired of being tired." So he began to work on himself in our 18-month program. He excavated his pain and his brokenness. And he gained a resilience that he'd never known before. And then we found him another job and he was able to withstand what the world was going to throw at him, but he wasn't toppled this time. And his story was so marked with terror and torture and violence that if his story had been a flame, you'd have to keep your distance. Otherwise, you'd get scorched. I would not have survived a single day of his childhood. And then we sent him to a warehouse beyond his 18 months with us, and he was a good worker, and they kept promoting him. And then 5 years later, 8 years later, he was running the whole place and had a home and married and 3 kids. I hadn't heard from him actually in years until one Friday he calls me with a little bit of panic in his voice. And he says, "Gee, you got to bless my daughter." I said, "¿Qué pasó, mijo? Is she sick or is she in the hospital?" "Oh, no. On Sunday, my Jessica, my little 18-year-old Jessica, she's going to Humboldt College, but we're scared for her because she's a little chaparrita and it's far, it's way up north. And could you give her a blessing before she goes?" I go, "Oh my gosh, are you kidding? I'd be honored. Look, tomorrow is Saturday. I have a baptism at 1. Why don't you come at 12:30? We'll do a little send-off." And so sure enough, they show up at Dolores Mission Church, Bandit and his wife and the 3 kids, including tiny little Jessica. And I stand them in front of the altar, and I put Jessica in the middle. I said, "Let's surround her, with our bodies, and everybody touch her, grab her shoulder, go ahead, put your hands on her head." And I tell them to bow their heads and to close their eyes. And as the homies would say, I do a long ass prayer and I go on. And somewhere in the middle of this prayer, we've all become chillones, we're all crying, and we're all kind of sloppy crying, and every one of us. And I don't know why we're crying, except for the fact that Bandit and his wife don't know anybody who's ever gone to college except me, certainly nobody in their families. And so, we kind of wipe our eyes and laugh about how mushy we got. And to change the subject, I look at little tiny Jessica and say, "Hey, what are you going to study at Humboldt College?" And she says, "Forensic psychology." And I said, "Damn, forensic psychology?" And Bandit chimes in over here. He goes, "Yeah, she wants to study the criminal mind." And Jessica looks at her father and does one of these, and he laughs and he says, "Yeah, I'm going to be her first subject." So we go out to the car and big abrazos, everybody piles in the car, but Bandit hangs back, and I'm glad he has. And I said, "Hey, can I tell you something? I give you credit for the man you've chosen to become, for choosing to walk in your own footsteps. I'm proud of you." And his eyes fill up with tears. And he says, "I'm proud of myself. All my life, people called me a low life, a bueno para nada, a good for nothing. I guess I showed them And I said, yeah, I guess you did.